If the data on my returning probe ship matches my computerized calculations, I will travel where no man has dared to go.
Into the black hole.
In, through, and beyond. In, through, and beyond, In, through, beyond, beyond. If the data on my returning probe ship matches my computerized calculations, I will travel where no man has dared to go.
Into the black hole?
In, through, and beyond.
All right. Enough of that nonsense. I know I said we were going to wait another, I guess, minute and a half, but RIP ears. So, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the stream. We're going to get to the subject, in a little while. We're going to talk about Black Panther, which I've now seen twice. And we're just going to continue a discussion about politics in D&D and how to make your campaign a little bit more politically sophisticated, maybe. But that'll be after we've just hung out and talked for a little while, because I want to give people a chance to just, get their... Hey, push this new button. Oh, God. What did I do? Unpush. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the process with the modular synth, is that you never know. Happy Wild Antic. In fact, let me zoom in on the chat here so I can read it better. My monitor's a little bit far away. Audio much better this time, Wild Antic says. Well, it's a process. I'm still getting a lot of cracks and pops, which is always a danger when you're recording anything from a modular synth, because it's outputting 10 volts. So it's hot. So you just plug a speaker and it goes, whoa, oh my God, it's super loud. So I've got an audio interface and I've got a couple of different things. I just don't know exactly how to modulate all of them. Hello, Demon Lord Sama. How are you? Did you get a haircut? My cow moos. Moo. My wee coo. No, I didn't I got a haircut quite a while ago. The hair is what it is. There's only so much we can do about it. I apologize. Game Guy 415, I'm doing fantastic. I have nothing to complain about. Things are great. I did just put on some kind of live... People always jump into chat when I'm using the Time Rider, and really it's one of the reasons I was enthusiastic about getting it, because I thought it would be a fun way to intro the stream, and also, depending on how the D&D campaign is going that we stream, have the Time Rider kind of in the background making noise, which I think would be especially cool if the players ever go to another dimension or something. So happy to see that Matt's losing his eyesight. It's not substantively worse than it was a little while ago. I can see all this stuff, for instance. Glad you enjoyed Rahirith Black Panther. I quite liked it. I liked it more the second time. Excited for Gary Con 2, Trainer66 says. I would love to go to Gary Con one of these days, by the way. I remember looking at, this is 10 years ago or whatever, watching a bunch of guys, and they're all old white dudes, which is, what I'm on my way to being. All gray hair, and they're all in their 60s or whatever, and they were refighting the battle of, it's Verbobonk. I don't remember what the actual name of it's the big war of which the adventure, the Temple of Elemental Evil, is the aftermath of. Right, so you play this adventure called the Temple of Elemental Evil, and there's a thing called the Moat House, and the Moat House has been sacked a long time ago. Well, that was part of an actual war game that they played. Still craving another Dune stream, Kazray says. Well, we'll get to that. I don't know if we'll stream Dune. Definitely more content, Dune-related content in the future, especially once the Kickstarter sort of dies down a little bit. I'm certainly full-time on you guys right now, part-time at Turtle Rock, quasi-officially. Knight Paladin 1199 says, hi, Matt. I just got Priest today, and it's very good. Well done. Thank you very much. I worked very hard on it. I'm super proud of it. Priest is one of those among the things that I am kind of modest about, including this stream, my D&D content, and the Critical Role comic. My novels are not part of that. I'm really proud of those. I'm proud of all those things, but I don't feel weird talking about the novels as though I am responsible for them, because I am. All of this stuff, I always feel like I'm just a small part of a larger community. Hey, Ashfall Art, thank you for joining the stream. Rahirith is answering Argentum Flare, and the answer is The Black Hole, 1979. So I'm going to presume that you were asking where that music was coming from. Actually, the music was me, but the quotes, in, through, and beyond, is from I Kind of Miss You Singing, Matt. Gibraltar says, don't encourage me. Those days are long behind me. That's not true. When's a good time to pop politics into my campaign? From as soon as the beginning. The Far Realm sounds like since. I'm way far down. Let's see. How long has this been up? Who can say? What is time? No one knows these things. What is your opinion about restricting player choice regarding race and class if they don't fit your world? You know, Republic of Tim, you should know my answer by now. And my answer is restrict it as much as you find attractive to you, but then listen to your players. And when they say, if they want to play something that's not on your list, indulge them as long as they kind of meet you halfway. Try to think of, okay, given what's given in my world, if a player wants to play this species that really isn't around, different DMs draw a different line in the sand. My friend Phil ran a campaign, and I'm sure if somebody wanted to play an elf, he just would have said no. And he wouldn't have had a problem with that, and I don't think any of us would have had a problem with it, and that's a part of the deal. It's a part of this social contract we're all signing up for, is that he knows he trusts his players, and we trust him, and he knew he could say no, and in fact, he invited the kind of people that he could say no to, and they wouldn't take it, weirdly. So that's a part of the deal. It depends on who's in your group. Would you ever stream Evolve in your new office? I'm sure. I loved that game. I played that game for probably thousands of hours. It would be super fun if we could find a way to play like OG Evolve, like pre-release, some of the pre-release maps. That there were certain, the experience of playing Evolve in the office followed a sort of a sine wave, and there are times when it was super exciting, and then times when we knew we were onto something, but we couldn't. It wasn't working at that moment. So it'd be cool to go back to one of the peaks from a pre-release thing and play that if we could. Probably can't because, well, who knows? One never knows. Phoenix XXI 22, Phoenix 22, or no, I'm sure Phoenix 12. You are welcome, although you were going to do it eventually. It wasn't up to me. Thanks for getting me back into reading. I got Priest and Thief around the New Year and finished them faster than I'd read any other book. Well, it makes me happy when people say that, because I wrote Priest and Thief for people that get burned out on big, thick books, because I'm one of those people. I'm still never finished Dead House Gates. Every couple times a year, I make it a point to try to, I get another 70,000 pages into it, and then I look and I'm like, oh, that was only 3%. Good Lord. Did we just kick off? Who can tell? Obtuse Anglos. No one knows these things. Time is a loop. Where time becomes a loop. Where time becomes a loop. Where time becomes a loop. Loop. So, time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so. Does the synth thing makes you a musician? Yes. That's one of the things that Don Buchla and Robert Moog thought, especially Don Buchla, one of the authors of modular synthesis, thought that they had discovered a way to let normal people like me make music, right? You go watch a Deadmau5 video where he's talking about how he does stuff, and he's like, I can't play a keyboard. I have to build chords one note at a time in a computer. So, I can't play a guitar. Well, I can sort of screw around with one. I can't play the keyboards, but I can certainly manipulate this thing and create what are pleasant sounds to me. Do you stick to the big bad evil guy? Super Hines says. Displaying Hines reminds me of Rupert Hine. Go listen to Rupert Hine's first couple of albums. They're super good. Displaying the big bad evil guys, should they display their overwhelming power once at low level, or throw it in a couple times to indicate they're still out there? It's up to you. It's just a knob you tune down to taste, and no real right answer to a question like that. How often does the big bad evil guy show up in the campaign to kind of motivate the players? It's down to you. I would say the answer is make sure that they don't forget about him. That's a good, interesting question for you, Rex Massa. Well, I'll be the judge of that. We'll see if this is an interesting question. I haven't even gotten to the end of the paragraph. There's a colon here. Let's see what's after the colon. What gave you inspiration ideas for your books? Do people really want to hear about that? Do people really care about where Priest and Thief came from? They came from a lot of things. They came from Cowboy Bebop. I liked that plot structure, the way they have different characters join the group at different stages, and you get to spend a whole book with just you get to spend a whole episode with just Spike and Jet, and then you get to spend an episode with them and Faye, and then she leaves, right? And then she comes back later. And so I like that structure. I also had a long discussion with my friend John Wick about, he had a friend of his who had commissioned to write a book on the Lion Clan and Legend of the Five Rings. And Lion Clan are the soldiers of the Empire, and they are duty bound and full of honor, and they're very like the royal guard in Black Panther, right? They serve the throne, whether the person on the throne is good or bad. And it might have been Jess Heinig, I don't remember, the person who was supposed to write this book, ultimately confessed to John, the line developer, that they couldn't find their way in because they were a devout pacifist. I almost said pacifist. Are you a philosopher? A devout pacifist. And the idea of a noble soldier was heretical to them because they thought that person was a murderer. And, this is whatever you think about that, it's an interesting discussion. And John explained to this person that a soldier is not a sinner. A soldier is not a bad person. A soldier is a sin eater. A soldier is somebody who sees that the society has to do something. And this will probably, it's not completely unrelated to our topic. The society has resolved itself to do something awful, fight a war. And that requires normal people sign up to do terrible things. That does not make them bad people. It makes them responsible for taking on the sins of the society, a sin eater. And that had a huge impact on me, and it resonated with me personally and also as an author because my grandfather fought in World War II. He served he was in the Navy. He was already in the Navy, by the way, when the war broke out, and he was on a utility ship in the Navy. I don't think he ever saw any action, but he certainly didn't sign up because he wanted to go kill people. That meet that guy and talk to him for 5 minutes and you would have understood that. So that presents a conundrum if you think that a soldier is a murderer. And then you meet one, especially if they're just a normal person like my grandfather. And it's hard to reconcile those 2 points of view. John didn't have a problem reconciling them. He reconciled them quite easily. And that's where I started to get Hayden from. And then, obviously I wanted to write a Robert B. Parker novel. I wanted to write a Spencer novel. I wanted to write a series of books with characters that posited what if Spencer and Susan didn't work out. And that was so these things all dovetail together. And then I was writing the characters and probably the scene after the jail scene where Hayden is talking to Maith, his friend who runs the jail. And really at that point in the story, you would not have been able to tell the difference between the two, who was speaking, because I hadn't gotten the characterization down. And then at one point I wondered, what is Hayden going to say in reaction to this thing that Maith said? And then I just had Hayden shrug. He doesn't say anything, he just shrugs. And that suddenly he popped. Everything else was important, but that was the thing that made him pop off the page. And that kind of world-weary, like, I'm beyond caring about this anymore. I don't even know what I think about this. I'm not even in a position to think about this stuff anymore. So, also, Rahirith, thanks for the answer. Dapper Sasquatch, also Rahirith, thanks for the answer about Time Riders. Didn't realize you really knew. Sorry, I had to punctuate that. Not your fault, Dapper Sasquatch. Remember that Cicero thought that punctuation was the devil. And he wrote extensively on the idea that this new invention, punctuation, was going to rob the reader of the joy and the art of having to take a spoken speech and translate it in their head and try to figure out where the speaker was putting emphasis on which syllables. And that punctuation was going to make readers dumb. So you are participating in a deep and long tradition, Mr. or Miss Sasquatch, or Quatch, if I may. Matt taught me to do the whole whistle hum thing. Aku Inu, I'm going way back. People, this is a great chat, by the way. I don't know why. I'm in a good mood. The Time Rider puts me in a good mood. This is one of those things where writing used to put me in a good mood, and it still does if I'm working on something like Fighter, because Fighter is not critical right now. But right now, writing, I'm doing quite a lot of it. And writing and Dungeons and Dragons are now not things that help me relax. They're very rewarding. That's super important. A lot of games we play. Go play StarCraft 2. That is not a relaxing experience, but it's super rewarding and it's fun. So these things are rewarding and they're fun to do, but they do not relax me. The Time Rider relaxes me, and it just drains all that stuff, and it's creating music, which is new for me. Aku Inu says a bunch of notes, and then sing, ? That's all very well then, but what about the Italian? Later on, when it's dark, we'll take him out back and bury him. Well, yes, we could do that. Sorry, you don't want to hear me do all of a Stephen Sondheim song. What is that? It's priest. Have a little priest. Is it really good? Sir, it's too good, at least. Then again, they don't commit sins of the flesh, so it's pretty fresh. Awful lot of fat. Only where he sat. Haven't you got poet or something like that? No, you see, the trouble with poet is how do you know it's deceased? Stick to priest. That's Matt Colville doing the Angela Lansbury part and the Len Cariou part, which neither of which am I warmed up for, by the way. And you could tell there are times when I can do both of those things, and it doesn't sound as ridiculous as it just did, but I love that song. I always thought Frida Wolf would be the perfect, like, no one I've ever known better for the Angela Lansbury part in that. It would be great to do a duet with her. And it would be great to flip the parts. I'll play the lady, and she can play. We could do it back and forth. Anyway, would you consider making the weapon that the priest uses against the elven? Oh yeah, sure. Well, I don't know about that, Demon Lord Sama. We'll definitely see stats for stuff like what was the sword? What's the name? Is it? No, it's Starkiller. Starkiller is the name because the dwarves, the elementals, made it to in their war against the astral celestials. So of course it's called Starkiller. Starkiller and stuff like that would be in a hypothetical, unannounced, unplanned future book that is the book of stuff you can rip off from Matt's D&D campaign. That would be, I think, quite a substantial book that wouldn't have maps or anything like that, but it would just have tons of spells and items and organizations and abilities for those people in those organizations and stuff. That is for those of you who are already running D&D to just grab that stuff and go. Politics between a single race, but we complement many races. I don't think it's any more different than politics in the real world. The Bearded Man. It's already maximally complex. Let's see. I prefer Evolve to Evolve 2. Oh well, that's down to taste. I don't think there was anything wrong with that game that we couldn't have fixed had we been able to make adjustments to it live at our own pace rather than at the publisher's pace, which was once every 700 years. I am glad, Sir Lucian. Oh, hey, thanks for having me on, by the way. I thought that was great. Can we get an Evolve RPG? Not up to me. Definitely not up to me. Bjorn says Maximilian is my homeboy. Maximilian, you're referring to, of course, the giant red robot that turns Anthony Perkins into soup. He just Cuisinarts that dude. And what was it? That messed with me. I was probably 8 years old, actually. And I watched this robot, this spinning bladed robot juice a dude live, not live, but right in front of me. And I was like, what is happening? So The Black Hole is a deeply weird movie. I would love to remake that movie. I would love to write the remake of The Black Hole because I think there is an amazing, amazing movie in there. And I think that they try to Disneyfy it. They were Disney. They tried to Star Warsify it actually a little bit and put cute robots in there, but they couldn't. Like they have a Slim Pickens robot in the Black Hole. What is he doing in there? But I don't think Vincent, for instance, I thought was quite an original character and better than C-3PO and R2. He's kind of C-3PO and R2D2 in one, but better than him because he quotes all sorts of Arab proverbs and Greek philosophers, which I love. What was it? What was that? There's a great quote in that movie, and I've never been able to find it anywhere else, but he claims it's, again, Cicero, where he says, rashness is the characteristic of youth, prudence that of mellowed age, and discretion the better part of valor. Now, we all know that last part, but I hadn't heard those first parts. I quite liked it. How would you run for a party of 1 to 2? Oh, that's easy. Well, a party of 1 to 2, a tiny party, you want to de-emphasize combat. You want to emphasize things like mystery. Go read a mystery book. I ran a very successful solo campaign for a friend of mine, and I just ripped off the book Feet of Clay by Terry Pratchett. And it was great. Pratchett's great because he's got an A plot and a B plot, which is always useful for us as Dungeon Masters to have stuff to switch back and forth between. It's one of the things Hitchcock did really well was he was always talking about the rising action and falling action. Just when you're about to, just right after the climax, and you're like, I don't want to do all the, there was a great beat we just hit, and this part's kind of like, well, it's fine. Cut to the rising action. The next part, when we come back to the B plot, will be who's right, and we can chop those parts out. So that's rely more on NPCs. Expect to do more talking because you've got to kind of fill in the gap, and don't be afraid to give the players more. I would say power. Will this stream only be about Black Panther? Well, we've already been streaming for, I don't know, like half an hour, and we haven't even talked about it yet. So you talked a little while ago about the Legend of the Nine Rings. Do you see the Emerald Enclave? I don't even know what that is. So the answer, Postal Man 72, I'm afraid, is no. Do you like any of the Wizards of the Coast 5e adventure guides? I mean, I've read all of them and liked all of them. Some of them I like more than others. So I think they're really well produced. I haven't run any of them, and it becomes less and less likely that I would ever, only because if I create something original, it is useful to the community to see how Matt does stuff. more useful to some people than others. And then I can monetize it. I could put it on, I could put it in a book and something and sell it to people. So, no, I've watched that Oghara. I actually, Deadmau5 did a video with Linus Tech Tips, but one of the most astonishing things I've ever seen was Deadmau5 live streaming the composition of a song that would become the Veldt. If you haven't seen that, you got to check it out, because he built this song. It took him hours, but he built it all layer by layer, and he named it the Veldt because it was a favorite short story of his by Ray Bradbury. And then he live streamed himself opening the email from a dude, or maybe just recorded it and put it up, of a dude. I'm sure all of you have seen this. So I apologize for boring you. But a guy who had been watching the live stream, and when he named it the Veldt, that guy knew that short story. And so this dude who had been watching, and this is the power, the democratization of technology, the power of the community. This guy watching the stream wrote lyrics to this instrumental that Deadmau5 had composed, and then sang those lyrics and recorded them and sent them to Deadmau5. And Deadmau5, you could have watched this live if you were tuned in the right point. It's like, all right, man, people do this all the time and it never works, but I'm going to give you a shot, and we're going to open up your lyrics and we're going to play it. I'm going to listen to the song. And this guy had taken the song and kind of edited it and cut it together. And Deadmau5 has, like, very quickly, I would guess only in 1 or 2 lines, Deadmau5 realizes that something extraordinary has happened. And he is overwhelmed. He is overwhelmed that this guy got it. He's occasionally makes, he goes, you put an echo on there, I'm going to take that off. But he goes, dude, you're getting half the rights to this. This is my song and your song now. You're going to be listed in the credits. You're going to be the lyricist. My publisher's going to be mad at me, but I don't care, because this is a hit song now. This is something. And I was like, oh God, it was such a, and I love that song too. I love the song, but also I love the process that dude went through. I don't know if he ever duplicated it, but you know, I feel bad for the guy that wrote the lyrics, because that's probably the thing that's now the thing he did, and who knows if he'll ever do anything again. Monkey Rustles has finally caught me live. You are welcome. I am glad that you are running the game. That is the thing that makes me happy and fills me with joy, is that in some minor way, I really don't think you needed me, but you didn't know you didn't need me. Once you get started and once you do it, you're like, I could have done this on my own. I am going to do Small Gods Walk the Planet campaign. I don't know what that means. Unless you're talking about the Terry Pratchett book. What's this about you and Justin Ziran from WizKids and Pirate Ships? There isn't really anything. That guy doesn't know who I am. He's just one of the dudes, I think, at WizKids that is involved in the production of this cool pirate ship. And somebody else just knew who that guy was and said, hey, you two should talk. And so I messaged the guy, and the guy's like, I apologize, but I don't know who you are. And I was like, when he said that, I was like, why would you? Why would you know who I am? So I don't think there's any danger that I'm going to be able to use that ship by the time I need it, which is going to be very early in the stream. It's actually not, I don't need a pirate ship. We've talked pirate ship, but really what I need is a galleon. Those things are all galleons. Show us your Appendix N. I beg your pardon? I'm fully dressed. I know this is that kind of stream. I just finished your novels and I love them. That makes me happy, Artemis McLean, because I worked really hard on them. They have a lot of me in them. I've heard people say Thief was better. But in my opinion, what you did with The Wasteland and The Green Order will forever be difficult to top. Thank God, because I don't want to go back to that place. That was tough. And one of the reasons I've never really tried to get an agent or a publisher is because I don't know how to sell the book. It's ambiguous and Jungian and psychological, and no one ends up happy, and it's really depressing. The end. You know, sign me up. Anyway, blah blah. I really like how you portray Hayden. Oh, thank you. It has really helped me write about my own experience as a first responder to my school shooting. What? Good Lord, that is a degree of seriousness that I was not expecting to have to deal with. Well, if anything I have done has in any way helped Retaliation 08, you've already been through worse and nastier stuff in this stupid country of ours than you should have, than anybody should have. Moving right along. I wish you added more of your own games experience in the adventure videos. What adventure videos? Adventure videos? Have I done an adventure video? Oh, you mean like the streams that we've done? In the way you did the Legend of the Five Rings video. Well, Blackharp, the live streams, one of the things that you're paying for, whether you like it or not, is me experimenting with stuff and trying new things. And that we're going to probably get a lot more of that, because I have now more time. I can justify quite a lot more easily working for you folks because of the Kickstarter. www.kickstarter.com/strongholds and streaming. But it means experimenting and doing stuff. And I really thought that talking about the adventures live would be fun, because it would be interaction with chat and people could ask questions. But then looking back at them, I'm not sure that those are successful. I'm not sure those streams work as YouTube videos. I think if they were YouTube videos, you probably would get more of my experience running them. So we'll see. Who knows? Ragnarok, your grandpa must have seen some action, maybe, but he didn't talk about it. The president, they had to ferry the president from one place to another. So if you want to get some idea about what kind of stuff my grandfather did in the war, that's not a I'm going to see action experience. Is ferrying the president around. It's the opposite of that. It would be cool to see a stream that's just a discussion of your books. That would be incredibly egomaniacal of me, and I'm already just full of self-obsession. Pickle shoe Steve. I like it when people ask questions about it, and I like answering them. But I did a whole... there's a video online. One of the videos I did was I just revised, just paid an editor to revise my books and improve them, I think, substantively. After I had gone through and edited, I think about 20% of the books out. Each book got heavily cut because they were grossly overwritten, especially the first book. So go watch that video, Matt Colville video on my novels. Let's see. What do you think about Brent Weeks? I don't even know who that person is. I apologize. I'm sure that's my own ignorance. Moby Prick is new here. Hello, Moby Prick, or Mr. Prick, if I can call you that. There's a question here about Japan during World War II. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. That's a long question. That is too long a question for me to answer. Is 5e a good system to run a highly political campaign? I don't really think there's any. I think politics is down to human nature. I don't think it really has anything to do with the system you're running. I think you could run a highly political game in anything. You could do it in GURPS, or you could do it in anything you want. If there has been a long period of time between sessions, should there also be a noticeable time difference in game? I think you all know what I would say to something like that. At least I hope so. In fact, I'm going to have to scroll down because I assume... Did you know that Thief has the title Priest printed at the top of her page? Yeah, I'll get around to fixing that. It's one of those things like when I still occasionally get messages from people when I go peace out. They go, oh my God, you just told all the people in England to fuck off. And I was like... Literally no one watching the videos thought that. So there's no one reading the book who goes, wait, this also, am I reading Priest again? Nobody thinks that. A couple of people are like, oh, I can't believe they roll their eyes and they throw the book away because they're like so unprofessional. I'm like, that's fine. Whatever. If that's what you think it makes the book good, then. Current Kickstarter total, 1.4 million. Good Lord. I think that number is going to go up, by the way, once we get, hopefully next week, I'll be able to show off, a 3D model, maybe a prototype, a physical prototype, maybe some more concept art. What level would you suggest for the strongholds? I would say we should start getting around to talking about Black Panther at some point, but these are good questions. You know what? There is no answer to that, Leo Karos. You could start at first level with the players getting a stronghold. And in fact, there would be good reasons for that to be fun. I would think typically around 5th level is a good time for the players to, there's spending the money and then there's it being built. And then there's this time in the middle where stuff happens. So spending the money and it being built, I would guess it should be 2 levels, right? We're spending the money at 3rd level and it's done at 5th level. Or alternatively, we spend the money at 5th level and it's done at 7th level. Or 7th and 9th level, depending on how quickly the players level up. It used to be that the 7th level was, which by the way, in AD&D, 7th level took you a long time. So who knows? If you had to develop a supplement for D&D without an art budget, or say your particular community, how would you go about it? Oh, you mean how would you do it is what you're asking. Took me a minute to decode your question. Lepidoptera lady. Is that butterfly lady or stamp collector lady? I don't remember. I would write it and make sure it was well written. If I was the only person I could count on, I would write it. I would make sure it was well written, maybe not well pronounced or articulated, but well written. And then I would go to homebrewery.com or whatever, and I would upload it so it looked like a official Wizards of the Coast product. It would have all the layout stuff, and I put it on the DM's Guild, and I would. The thing is, I know that some people don't like doing this, but the reality is. And the thing that I had in my pocket anyway was I'm a member of a lot of online communities and have been for decades. I've been online talking about, among other things, D&D. So it was easy for me to say, hey, here's this thing I did. And people went, oh, really? And that helped. So I know a lot of people don't like doing that. A lot of people write because they don't want to go deal with humans. I understand that. But you have to, if you promote yourself, if you get out there and people know you, then those people, when they see you've done something, they will be interested. What do you think about modding Odin's folding ship? I don't know what that is. Let's see. Lavanthros read Priest twice. Once after I was done editing it, and I can honestly say I liked it just as much, if not more. but couldn't place exactly what was edited down. If you read the original, for instance, if you read the original book, in the first chapter, you meet like more characters. There's a whole like extra character you meet, and I was like, who is this guy? And then I condensed it down and made it so that it was it was Domhnall that Hayden meets in the second chapter. Anyway, any idea on a release date for Fighter? I would still like to get it done this year. Writing tips. Kalagan asks, write every day. Write every day, and do not, if it reads like writing, cut it. I can give you a lot. We'll probably do a whole episode. I did a learning lunch. We do these learning lunches at work. I'm going to do one about the Time Writer, about modular synthesis, where if there's something that you're an expert on, then come to lunch and get at Turtle Rock Studios and give a lecture on this thing that is your area of expertise. It could be related to video games, doesn't have to be. And writing was one of mine, and that writing talk was really influential. There were several people at Turtle Rock later. There's one guy, Andy Haas, who had to write a summation of the VR project he was working on, and then the producer sent what he wrote to me. I didn't know who wrote it, and he said, "Can you just go over this and make sure that it's English?" And I read it, and I was like, apart from the fact that there's no paragraphs in here, this is really good. This is really well written. And I said that to the group. I said, "Hey, team, you guys whoever wrote this did a great job." And Andy spoke up and said, "I wrote that, and I was the one who had to write it, so I went and watched the video of you from the early lunch." Because we we record all these things so that new Turtle Rockers can go, people that weren't able to make the learning lunch can go back and watch it. And it just really made me, just really happy that the information was now institutional, and the Turtle Rock Studios could do without Matt Colville and still get some writing done. That made me happy. Thanks for the 3D combat video. Perfect timing. One of the things I love, Kenya Call, about the 3D combat video is it gave people who have highly developed opinions about range and distance and mathematics and D&D a platform for them to natter on about. Because there was a lot of that. There were a lot of people who were like, well, I think it should work this way. And I was like, the thing that makes me happy is that you have this venue to talk about this and express yourself and have people argue about what's the right way to do it. I think the breakthrough, obviously, is that if you can do out and along and figure out what that is, all you're just rotating that up, and now you're doing up. And there were a whole bunch of people that were like, what? You're right. That's way easier than I thought it was going to be. So those people make me happy, and the people who are talking about all the myriad different ways to do it. And there were a couple people who were like, actually, in a lot of the examples I was using, there wouldn't really, if you actually did the math, the range would still be pretty close to the long leg, right? If it was 7 and 3, it'd be 7 point something. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. How much sleep do you get every night? These days, quite a lot. Actually, Kappa Dotub, defense of the Bouillon. How much sleep do you get every night? I sleep well these days. And the funny thing was, before the Kickstarter, I didn't sleep well at all because I was just dealing with stress of work and stress of not knowing how the Kickstarter was going to go. But now, I work out every day, and that helps. That helps a lot. If you were having trouble, there was a great, it was an AMA, but there was somebody on Reddit who was a sleep specialist, and they said, I'm going to tell you right now how you can get a good night's sleep every night, but you're not going to like it because it's going to be tough. And the trick is, when you go to bed, first of all, go to bed, make sure it's dark in your room, no blinking lights, and don't take your iPad with you. So you're going to bed to sleep. You're not going to bed to read. You're going to bed. If you want to read before you go to bed, go sit in a couch, a comfy chair, and read. And then when you're ready to go to bed, go to bed. Bed is for sleep. Lie down, close your eyes, and start getting ready to sleep. As soon as you go to bed, lie down, close your eyes, and try to sleep. And after about 10 minutes, if you're not asleep, get up. Get up and go to the computer and play video games or do whatever you're going to do, and then go back to bed. And eventually, you may be sweating and be exhausted, and it might be 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. But eventually, you will lie in bed, and 5 minutes later, you'll be asleep. And that's night 1. And night 2, you do the same thing, and that same process will happen, and it will be unpleasant, but you'll get to that state earlier. And eventually, you'll just train yourself that bed is the place you sleep, and when you go to bed and your head hits the pillow, 5 minutes later, you'll be asleep. So if you're having trouble sleeping, there are lots of answers. That is merely one of them. Pick the one you like. Rahirith ran their in-laws through the tomb of the Delian Order, and that makes me very happy. I'm glad you guys have fun. I just made that up in that video. I made that up in that video, and it astonishes me that it is as successful as it is. And sort of makes me think that maybe a larger adventure will be fun. Stay tuned. That'll be in the book. Do you have a favorite campaign setting? Birthright. King Frank the First. How would one politely ask an edgelord player to reconsider their RP? I don't really know what that term means, and I treasure my ignorance on it. But generally speaking, I think talking to people is better than fuming about it silently. And talking to people in front of the group at the table with everybody else there. It is, after all, a communal activity. Does everybody else feel the way you feel about it? Probably. You'd be surprised. So just say, hey, does everybody else, and anybody else, where does the concept of level come from? Wargaming, mostly, and the idea that you had, the more experienced troops were, the better they did, right? And so you would have peasant levies. You'll see this in the warfare book. Actually, you'll see it in strongholds. Peasant levies, basically useless, cannon fodder, and then green troops, and then seasoned troops. These guys have had a battle. These guys, no training, training, no battle, training with battle. Seasoned veteran troops who've survived several battles, and then elite troops that are they're the best. And so those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. And how do you get from here to here? You fight, and you survive. Hope that was useful. Mike Merle said he thinks a character should level every other session. Wouldn't that mean the stronghold could easily get build within a day? Well, a day? A day of what? A day in the game? A day in the world? What kind of money are we talking about to build a stronghold? It's measured in tens of thousands of gold pieces. How many tens is going to be up to what edition you're playing and stuff like that. We're actually doing research to figure out how much gold you get in different editions so that we can have a little chart and you can pick which edition you're running. How many people will get use out of that chart? I don't know, but it will be based on actual data that we have gathered. Thanks to Lars. Hat tip to Lars. Would you take some time off from being a superhero on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific? I'm not a superhero. I'm not even a regular hero. I have hero hair and I have hero voice, and the rest of me is comedic sidekick. And play in my AD&D 2nd Edition campaign. Gargamond, I apologize. I would love to get to play. I'll get to play D&D more once we have the studio, but we're gonna have to. What's the? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. But jumping into other players' games online, I think it would be a recipe for disaster. Have I played the original Mass Effect trilogy? I played the first game and I played the second game, and the second game is one of my all-time favorite games. And I started playing the third game, and I was kind of upset that they kind of undid everything in that first game, and I checked out after about 2 hours. I really like how short the chapters are in Priest. Was that intentional? Of course. Well, it can't be by accident. Yeah, why am I making this noise? Nistic asks why the chapters in Priest are so short. Well, they're not short if you're used to reading, detective fiction. They're not short if you're used to reading, like, the Spencer novels or Raymond Chandler and stuff like that. But most people who read fantasy don't read those things, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed. And some people don't like that stuff because they're used to fantasy being a certain kind of book that works a certain kind of way. And I was like, but you can go get that anywhere. How much sleep do we already go to it? Sorry, I asked about that. I'm colorblind, but I think you might look green at the moment. Your mom looks green at the moment. How do you stay in one writing style for large stories? I find myself, I don't know. That's a good question. Consistency is important. I occasionally will tweak, I like very sparse language, but then occasionally got to throw some poetry in there. Who is your favorite poet? T.S. Eliot. Reading T.S. Eliot's like, I feel like I'm shooting myself in the heart whenever I do it. Do you think building a stronghold out of my collection of Rifts books would work? I think that's probably the best use of them, Turbo Knuckles. Saint Michael the Paladin says, what's up? Up is a relativistic notion that has no intrinsic meaning. What is that a reference to? I saved this last time as thank you, Retaliation 08. This way, I don't have to say it every time. We could just make it a command. In Colville writing advice, 1, if it feels like writing, cut it. 2, cut all the stuff people tend to skip. I'm one of the people, I skip stuff. So 3, always determine the conflict in the scene. You should always be thinking, will the hero, ... How deep are you into Twitch culture memes? Not deep really at all. More deep than most people my age, certainly. But not deep at all. Any plans to get back on your bike? Yeah, I've been, now that I'm full-time for you folks, I could ride every day if I wanted to, but I need to lose more weight. One of the reasons I got in that accident was because I'm very overweight. And as a result, the center of gravity on the bike is not where it should be. So get the weight down, and then riding the bike becomes more like riding a bike. Personal favorite D&D monster? I don't know. I like bugbears. I like beholders. I like lots of stuff. What high CR monsters would you like to see in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes? I don't know. Aboleths would be cool. I like those guys. Excuse me. Could we just do a whole stream where it's just me just answering questions? Seems like it. Is that not this? No, we're going to talk about Black Panther. Stand by. Is starting a campaign with foreshadowing a good idea? It's a great idea. Thumbs up. Do it. Foreshadowing what works, has worked for a lot of people. I'm glad to 3D Guard that it made it easier. I'm glad. That's all I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to make a video. 3D Guard says that he was planning and underwater. Thanks for the 3D video combat. I'm glad it made it easier because really I wasn't trying to say, here's how to be a better tactical dungeon master in 3 dimensions. I don't really know how to do that. But I do know that I believed a lot of DMs were intimidated by 3D combat when it doesn't need to be that intimidating. And I think I was proved correct. I think there were basically two types of people watch that video. People that aren't intimidated by 3D combat because they don't mind doing math, and in some cases quite a lot of it. And you can see that in the comments of the video. And people who were intimidated by it because they don't want to do math. And I was like, you don't have to. You don't have to do the math, actually. It's just 2D combat on its... I think soon, Raccoon, we will do that. In fact, I think that they're like designing an adventure live over the course of multiple sessions. Actually, it wouldn't have to be a short one. We could do it like the Collaborative stream. I think it would be a lot of fun, and I want to do it. I'm afraid that I wouldn't be good at it, but we'll see. Have you ever had problems with players being flabbergasted? There was a great Reddit thread about, hey, people who speak English as their second language, what are the most astonishing words? What are the most astonishing things about English? And one of the most upvoted thing was the word flabbergasted is real and not made up. Have you ever had problems with players being flabbergasted by names of monsters? Bugbears really threw my players for a loop. Your goal as the dungeon master is just to say these things in a straightforward manner and just treat bugbears like your players are always going to laugh at the names that you come up with. And some of them are things you invented, and some of them are things like bugbears and owlbears. An owlbear is an owl and a bear, but a bugbear is not a bug and a bear. It might be in your world, but it's not mine. But your world might therefore be more interesting than mine. But you just got to play it straight. It's okay to laugh with your players, but then you got to play it straight. And one of the things that I learned very early on was that whatever your players' associations with any given word that might be real that they might know about, once you've been running the game for just a couple of hours, now it means that thing in your game. Will we be able to subscribe once you start streaming? We'll see. How do you use music in the background for your games? I hit play. Thoughts on games with high amount of magic items? It's tricky because you're just giving your players a lot of power and it becomes progressively more difficult to balance. I think you can get away with it for short periods of time. Like I gave my players in my last campaign quite a lot of magic items because I thought we'd play till like 5th level and stop. But then they all wanted to keep going and I was like, I wanted to keep going, but I had kind of overburdened them with stuff. Is cereal soup? No, don't be ridiculous. What a ridiculous question. Is cereal soup? No. What's the largest group you've DM'd for that you considered successful? I DM'd for 8 or 9 players in a Champions campaign for about 3 years, and that was pretty successful. This quality seems like Matt is sitting in my room. Maybe I am sitting in your room. Wow, I'm way behind on chat. All right, so what are your thoughts about renaming creatures to remove player knowledge or create more immersion? All right, so Wallish77 asks an interesting question. What are your thoughts? I'm just going to say the same thing I just said again. You probably heard it the first time. On renaming creatures to remove player knowledge or create more immersion. Could be meat, could be cake. Don't know until you try. Because sometimes it's evocative and it makes your world seem more unique. And it does help the players kind of take your world on your terms. On the other hand, it can be confusing as a very confusing thing. And so, for instance, my friend Jim enjoyed, and I don't even though it confused and frustrated the hell out of me. I'm not sure that he was wrong to do it. I'm not sure that my confusion and frustration wasn't worth it. But he, in his world, in Albion, which I guess technically isn't his. Actually, Mythic England doesn't belong to Jim. But even the game he was running, he didn't invent. But certainly I think the campaign he ran, based on that old SPI magazine, the Ares magazine that talked about had an Albion board game in it. His interpretation of that, I think, is ultimately unique in his, and I think of it as his campaign. Like gnomes. This has nothing to do with any of the history of forbidding gnomes in this chat. That was purely an in-joke from a Collaborative stream. But so put that aside. Gnomes in Jim's game meant the short little creatures that live far away. And so they could refer to gnomes, the actual D&D creature. They were in his game. They could refer to dwarves. They could refer to halflings. They could refer to fairies interchangeably. And that's way more realistic than Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is ahistorical. It takes terms from the real world that were often several different words for the same phenomenon or the same myth or legend and turns them into 3 different creatures because they got to fill a monster manual. And they literally had this medieval bestiary that they were going through and like, oh, let's take this and let's take that and turn them on to different creatures. So, it was somewhat immersive, but somewhat frustrating. So it can work or it cannot work. Like a lot of things. Have you ever read through the Angry GM stuff? Nope, I don't. You actually, if you think about it, you will not be surprised to learn that I do not go online and spend a lot of time, or really any time, on, like I spend hours every week watching videos about modular synthesis. Why? Because I don't know anything about it. Right. And ipso facto, I don't spend a lot of time reading DM stuff because I feel like I've been doing it for 30 years. I get it. There's a lot I don't know, and I'm always learning. But every time, if I want to learn, I run. And then at the end of that process, I've learned a lot. So, have you ever invented fantasy cheeses? I think all of the stuff I've invented is pretty cheesy. Stabby Road games. All right, so let's get to the topic at hand. Chat has slowed down a little bit. Let's see what happens if I exclamation point topic. Let's find out what is the topic, folks. Topic. Let's talk about Black Panther, the origins of power in the state. That sounds good. Turbo Knuckles obviously was not here early on. Otherwise, you would know what modular synthesis was. So I saw Black Panther for the second time last night, and the first time I saw it, I liked it, but the things I didn't like about it stood out a lot more. And that might have been because I think I watched it the day after the Kickstarter launched, and my head was not... I was sort of having an out-of-body experience. I hope you folks don't mind if I lean back a little bit in my chair and relax a little bit. Not too far. We don't want to go like, whoa, there we go. So watching it a second time, I was super engaged, and I noticed a lot of things I didn't notice the first time. No surprise. It would be difficult to watch any movie twice and notice fewer things the second time. But one of the things I noticed was how much time, first of all, a lot of positive things to say about that movie. I have some criticisms, but I think those criticisms are typical of Marvel movies. You know what you're getting into, right? The bad guy is just the good guy in a different costume, slightly different color palette, like there's a slider. That's pretty common, and I got awfully tired of it. However, they did a really good job of wringing some new permutations and changes out of it for this movie. And Matt began this, so it's been an hour. We spent an hour. Spoiler warnings. No, if you haven't watched El Gato Negro, then do not watch this, because we're going to talk about what happens in this movie. So yeah, they definitely rang some interesting changes out of that. Like Michael B. Jordan's character, like that guy is going in my book. Like he's going to play one of the Knights of the White Hart in my book, because I loved that actor. I'd never seen him before. That guy has so much charisma. I actually entertained the notion that maybe he should have played Black Panther, but then I was watching Chadwick Boseman. I was like, no, this guy, that guy, you can never tell. Like, it's always like actors act. That's their thing. Bye, Game Guy, 415, sorry. There's not going to be huge spoilers, but but we are definitely going to talk about this film, and we're going to talk about again, and this will be up on YouTube. I don't know about YouTube, but certainly Twitch for at least 30 days, so you'll be able to watch it afterwards. Should probably put spoilers in the title, Matt. I don't know. I think people are adults. So there was a lot to like about that. I did think some of the dialogue among the royal family was awfully arch and unrealistic. However, it's supposed to be aspirational. It's not supposed to be relatable. And in that sense, I'm like, I get it. That's fine. The people who haven't watched Black Panther and who are worried about spoilers have probably left at this point, which leaves only you and I. And we can talk about the movie that we saw. So I was impressed with how good a job they did showing us, the viewer. Well, let's step back a moment and say one of the things I was really impressed by in the film was how clear the plot was. I personally don't believe plot actually matters. Most people, you ask them what their favorite movie is, and they can tell you what their favorite movie is, and they can recite lines of dialogue from it that they love, and they love the relationships in the movie. They love a lot about the movie, but when you ask them to tell you what happened in that film, they very quickly get discombobulated. Because plot doesn't really matter. Plot is just the engine, right, that makes the movie go. It's the excuse. It's the excuse for all the things that happen. So you'll watch a James Bond movie and you get 15 minutes into that and you have no idea what's going on anymore, and that doesn't stop people from going to see those movies. Quite the opposite, in fact. My friend Tom Abernathy gave a great GDC talk where he tried to tell people, not everybody listens, but he tried to tell people making video games, stop worrying about plot, focus on character. Character is what matters. Okay, I think that's all true. However, they did a really good job of keeping the plot in Black Panther concise and straightforward. There were a lot of characters, but you always knew whose side they were on, even when there was ambiguity. You knew there was ambiguity and why, and you knew what they wanted. You always knew what everybody wanted. In every scene, you understood how this scene was moving the plot forward. And as a result of having just a rock-solid plot, they were able to do some interesting stuff where you're watching and you feel like you're actually getting a lesson, a useful one for us as dungeon masters, trying to build a world that is politically sophisticated, which sometimes means throwing your if you're a dungeon master, it's sometimes your responsibility to be ahead of your players, to understand more, not only about the world, but why the world works the way it does than your players do, which often means when they're encountering NPCs who have convictions or beliefs or behave a certain way, they may get frustrated sometimes because they can't relate to those things because you've done your homework and they haven't. It's your job to do your homework, not theirs. So if you want to create a politically sophisticated campaign world, it often means having NPCs that behave in a historical way, in an authentic way, but not in a way that is transparent to the players, because the players are there to kill monsters. And if we do it well, then the players feel like it's real and they're learning something, not like taking a class learning something, but discovering something important about the way your world works and then ultimately the way the real world works. What am I talking about? Why is T'Challa the king of Wakanda? Why is he the king? I think that if you ask a 9-year-old that question, hang on a minute, Vars, there's something happening in chat. I was in the middle of something good. Somebody said something, and then other people answered him, and now I don't know what that person said. Leos Karos was asking a question that hasn't gotten answered. Typically when that happens, it's because I'm like, I don't know. I got, there's in any given page of questions, there's like, any given page of chat, there's like 20 questions. Can't answer all of them. So I have to skim through and grab the ones. So Rahirith gives what I would say is a typical answer. It's based on his parentage. If you went to a kid who saw the movie and said, why is T'Challa the king? They would give you the at face value answer, which is he was the prince, he was the eldest son, and the king died. That is wrong. That is not why he's king. But it's the self-evident answer. It's the one that appears before us first. So then the next layer down below that. So there's the obvious, the king is dead, and now the prince is going to become the king. And that makes sense to everybody. And I think this is the level that most players operate at. This is about as much politics as most players expect to get in their games. Again, Demon Lord Sama, because his father is. No, that's not why, although it appears why. And again, this is, I think, the level that the players operate at. The players are there to kill monsters, remember. There's 3 books. There's the Player's Handbook. There's the Dungeon Master's Guide. What's the 3rd book? The 3rd book isn't storytelling. The 3rd book isn't plot points and how to integrate them. The 3rd book isn't politics. The 3rd book is monsters. So what is the game about? It's all about monsters. That's what the players are there for. So the king is dead. His son is going to become king. And for most people, that's the end of it. There's a trial, though, isn't there? And we see some of this trial by combat. What's the purpose of trial by combat? The purpose of trial by combat is to make sure, and by the way, this is how a chaotic society, I think, deals with stuff. Rule by strength, not by virtue, not by tradition, not by lineage, not by the law. It's not the law that says, it's by strength, trial by combat. Stilgar and Paul have a moment in Dune where everyone knows that Paul is the strongest. He's the best fighter any of them have ever seen. And everyone knows that he would beat Stilgar in a fight. And so as a result, all the Fremen are like, why is Paul not in charge? And everyone expects them to have a fight, and the result of that fight is the strongest runs the place. In my opinion, and obviously there are going to be people who disagree, in my opinion, a chaotic, I don't mean random, I mean on the alignment axis, a chaotic civilization or culture, I think really, a chaotic civilization or culture is one where it's the strong rule, right? So there's a moment in Black Panther where there's a challenge, and there's this ritual associated with it, and everyone has, all the different clans have the opportunity to challenge T'Challa, and ultimately one of them does. And so you might say, now we're at level 2, you might say that he's the king because he beat the guy who challenged him. There was a trial, and he beat him. But that's not why he's king. You might say because of the tradition that informs it. But that's not why he's king. These are all the trappings. These are all the surface. This is the surface stuff. This doesn't get down to the actual origins of power in the state. When I say state, I mean whatever the civilization is. The city, the town, the country, the duchy, the tribe, the house, the clan, the state. Where does the power come from? Well, we get a lesson on that. If it's not clear to us, if there's any ambiguity, and we take things at face value, and we think, well, he's the king because he was the prince and his father died, Or we think he's the king because there was the right of challenge and he won. Later on in the movie, we find out where power really comes from. And they make a really good point of it. And it's, I think it might be the thesis statement of Black Panther. There's a subtext, which is, it's hard for a good man to be king. I love it when movies, they do all the work. So the folks understand something instinctively, but they couldn't put voice or word to it. And so the author just has somebody say it. Just find the girl, right? So T'Challa's dead father says it's hard for a good man to be king. That's the subtext, I think. But the text is, where does power come from? Well, Michael B. Jordan's character, Eric Killmonger. He's got a name. He's got a Wakandan name, but I do not remember it. Eric Killmonger shows up, and now we learn a lot about where power comes from. Because when he challenges T'Challa in the throne room, there's like 5 other people in there. Where does the king? I think you're basically right, T.Z. Hartman. What are those people doing in the throne room? What are those 5 people doing in the throne room? They are empowering the king. When those 5 people find out who Eric Killmonger is, it's their reactions that are important, not T'Challa's. It's their reaction. They're like, wait a minute, what? Some of them are not loyal to Wakanda. They're not loyal to the throne. They're loyal to T'Challa. And when they see Eric Killmonger, they have this instinctive reaction to violence. Let's get this guy out of here. He's a threat to the thing that I care about, this person. But some of them are like, wait a minute, hang on a minute. This guy has a good point. He couldn't protect his father. Michael B. Jordan has some of the most well-reasoned arguments in all of Marvel villainy. Like, the only person who can really hold a candle, I think, to Eric Killmonger as a villain in Marvel Comics is the Vulture's Michael Keaton's Vulture. And as astonishing as I thought Michael Keaton's Vulture was, Killmonger's way better. Killmonger is way better as a villain. He is incredibly well-reasoned. He's very brash and aggressive, and he's a ruthless murderer. And so as a result, there's a negative reaction to things he's saying. But the things he's saying are all right. They're all correct. T'Challa failed to protect his father. T'Challa failed to bring in Claw. Failed to stop the Claw from trafficking in vibranium. And so there are people who are like, well, what do I care about? Do I care about T'Challa being king, or do I care about a strong Wakanda? They care about a strong Wakanda. And so when it comes time for this right of challenge, for one thing, we see Zuri. We see Forrest Whitaker, one of my favorite actors, and having a really interesting third act as far as his career goes between Rogue One and this movie, where he really gets to chew the scenery a lot. A lot of fun to watch act. Zuri tacitly approves of what's happening. And his approval is important, right? His approval, if Zuri spoke out, things would go differently. What does Zuri represent? Zuri represents religion. He is the shaman. He is the speaker of the old ways. He represents tradition. And if he spoke out against Eric Killmonger and said, no, you weren't there. He could have said you weren't there for the challenge. They could have had dialogue about this, but they got a movie to make. Somebody could have gone to Zuri and said, you can stop this. And then you would get Zuri's point of view. And his point of view was, yeah, but this is the tradition. Like, he's the son of this, that, and the other thing. If Zuri said, nope, sorry, man, if he just made a personal decision not to support this, then things are different. So if you think that T'Challa is king because he's the prince and his father died, or you think that because there was a right of challenge and he won, then why does Zuri's opinion matter? It wouldn't in that instance. But it's clear that it does. This guy is the head, that he represents the religion in the movie. And so if he had spoken out against Killmonger, things would have gone differently. If none of the heads of the houses, if none of the heads of the 5 tribes had supported Eric Killmonger, things would have gone differently. But they didn't. Because some of them felt like, for instance, Okoye, General Okoye is like, I serve the throne. This is super important, right? Where does power come from? Zuri, General Okoye. One of them is the religion, the culture of the people, the traditions. Let's call it the traditions. The holder of the traditions. And the other one is the military might. And as long as General Okoye supports whoever's on the throne, then Eric Killmonger he's a good dude. As far as fighting goes, he's a very capable fighter. But could he stand against all of the Imperial Guard? Nobody thinks that. Could he stand against all Wakanda? No, of course not. So the church supports the test. The general supports whoever sits on the throne. This is where Daniel Kaluuya, he's playing. I've got their names right here, Wakabi, because I can't remember all of them otherwise. This is the guy from Get Out, right? He is the head of one of the tribes, and he has a whole army. Now, not all these tribes have an army, it seems. He's got an army of fighters. They've got the shield tech. They've got the plated rhino dudes, and he wants to go out and fight. And it's clear that he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care why. He's one of those generals that I got an army. What's the point of having an army if we're not going to use it? And he literally says, he's, again, brilliant writing. It's not poetic, it's not clever, but it's clearly stating characters' motivations in a believable way. He says to T'Challa, they're best friends, it seems. He says to T'Challa, listen, man, you order me to go out there and clean up the world, and I'll do it. Right? He's not in favor of bringing refugees into Wakanda. What's the movie about? It's about America, by the way. Right? That's going to be a controversial opinion, but it should be obvious that Wakanda's problems are America's problems. He says, you send me to go out and clean up the world, and I'll do it. And Killmonger represents sending him out into the world to clean up the world. So he's like, yeah, I'll back this dude. What if he had said no? What if that guy had not backed Eric Killmonger's claim to the throne? Where does power come from? It doesn't come from the traditions. It comes from the people who believe those traditions and the people who speak for them. It doesn't come from the weapons. It comes from the people who wield the weapons. It comes from the generals who command them and to whom the soldiers are loyal. And there's a moment, and this is we're getting close to the end of this the end of this lecture, folks, where Eric Killmonger orders the soldiers of Wakanda, represented the dual. There's kind of the elite guard. This is classic I, Claudius stuff, right? There's the elite guard, there's the Imperial Guard, and then there's the army. And they're two different things. One is designed to protect the king, and the other is designed to go fight wars. And he orders them to go kill T'Challa. Well, at that point, General Okoye says, I've stood all I can't stand no more. And makes a personal decision. Where does power come from? She makes a personal decision and orders her troops to attack Killmonger. Now he's not king anymore. Now he's just a guy, and he's got to fight for it. And to a certain extent at this point, there is no king, because the country is in turmoil. Meanwhile, I gotta look him up again, Wakabi, he is like, well, this is the guy who's gonna let me do that thing I said I wanted to do, go clean up the world. So yeah, okay, let's go kill T'Challa. Right? And this to me seems very realistic. This is actually like, this is a couple of the different Henrys and Edwards, Shakespeare wrote plays about. That notion of, yeah, we're friends and we grew up together, but I'm also the leader of this tribe and the commander of this army. And those things are probably more important to me than our childhood together. There's a great quote from Henry V where he explicitly says, you weren't paying attention to what I did in my childhood and how I spent it. So at this point now, there's what we would in America call a constitutional crisis, but they don't have a constitution in Wakanda. So it's a secession crisis. Who secedes? It's a crisis of who's going to be the next king. And if it were purely down to who won the right of combat, then Killmonger commanding the troops should have been it. That should have been enough. But actually, all those things are just the trappings of power. They're the outward clothes that power wears. They're not the actual source of power. So how is this useful to us as dungeon masters? Well, it's our responsibility to put together societies. The town that you start in, even if you're dealing with a unit as small as the town has elders, and the folks in that town who are just trying to live their lives rely on those elders to make the decisions that guide the town. And what happens when one of them dies, right? What happens does power automatically pass to the next senior person? What if that next senior person is kind of a cockbag? Now you've only got, 3 or 4 or 5 village elders, a blacksmith, a carpenter, a weaver, a carter, and suddenly you've got Black Panther in miniature. So, anyway, here endeth the lesson. You have the Duke or you have the Count, and they have the knights, and the knights project their power. But what happens when that leader of the Order of Knights decides not to obey the king? You've got the bards who travel the land and let the people know. This really mystified people and intrigued some people, like the notion in my campaign setting that the bards certify the law. What does that mean? Well, because how does somebody in a points of light setting, how does somebody living out in the middle of nowhere know that there's a new king? And how does that person know that the new king is a good king and everyone else is listening to them? They don't have the internet or radio or the Pony Express. It's the bards who travel around. And this is a real thing. This is what troubadours really did. They would go from town to town, and that they brought news. And what those guys said was what the people in town believed, because they didn't have any other source of information. What those guys said, the people in town believed, because they had no other source of information. Most people, until the invention of the train, really, most people in Europe lived and died and never traveled more than about 30 miles from where they grew up. So the knights, the bards, when those people turn against you, all you have left is your own physical power. And unless you're, even Ajax the Invincible has Mandrake the Betrayer, has his wizard, whose name I can't, Mortum, right? Has the head of the Hawk Lords, so that, and ultimately, how do those people have power? Like, it does, and this is the great democratic revolution. It does ultimately come from the people. Like, who is the general? He's the leader of the army. What is the army? It's a big part of the people who have weapons. So the general disobeys the leader, the king, or the president. Do the soldiers automatically go with him? Some of them do. Some of them don't. What happens if most of them don't? How many soldiers are going to be willing to turn their guns on the people? Ultimately, ultimate power derives from a mandate from the masses. Ultimately, often the masses don't know that. But and keeping them ignorant of that is super important, and has been true for centuries, thousands of years. But ultimately, if the people don't believe, because the people make up the army and the people make up the government, if the people don't believe, then the illusion breaks. Anyway. So, how's everybody doing? I hope that wasn't boring. I may excerpt it for a YouTube video when I go back and look at it, depending on how successful I think it was. It seemed like 100%, by the way, Tempesty, a good despot makes the people feel powerless. Hayes Zero says something interesting. In my opinion, it should be the bards, but also the rangers. The rangers are, I like the idea, I hadn't thought about it until just now, but I like the idea that the rangers are kind of the bards of the propaganda, the bards of the Ministry of Propaganda. But the rangers are out there trying to tell you what's actually going on. Give those guys an organization, the Harpers, or in my world, the Coursers, and now you've got politics. Right? This ranger, who we trust, maybe some of us trust more than we trust the bard. The bard is charismatic and sings pretty songs, but not one of us. Well, that ranger comes to town every once in a while and has, a dead elk that he's brought that we get the meat off of and, give to the butcher, and he knows all the pathways around here. And so who do we trust when the bard tells us one thing and the ranger says another? It's politics. That's politics. Down to just a microscopic. I would say that's accurate, Crowbar. No, actually, no, no, that's not true. To quote Game of Thrones, power lies where we think it lies. False. False. Power lies with the people. That's the truth. If the people don't believe, if enough people don't believe, for instance, if those people that we call the army don't believe, then where does the ruler derive his power? However, it's because the people don't know that people can become despots. Wigan 11, thank you for backing the Kickstarter. And MC, McKinnell, I don't know. Sorry. I'm happy you're happy with the analysis. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks for showing me how dumb I am. Well, I mean, this is my point isn't that you're dumb. My point is only that you were taking things at face value. And indeed, that's probably what the players are doing. So that just means you're normal. Doesn't mean you're dumb. Just means you're normal. Remember, the players people going to the movie just want to see bright lights and loud noises and people falling in love and maybe a bit with a dog. And your players are showing up because they want to fight monsters. It's up to us as dungeon masters to maybe layer stuff on top of that and challenge those unexamined assumptions. Anyway. The Fuzzy Bandito, Strawberry. When will we see your fantastic face? I'm sorry, I don't have a fantastic face. I've only got this one. on Critical Role as a guest. I mean, that's up to Matt Mercer, and once again, it has never come up. So, considering how long he and I have known each other, you've got to sort of assume that he knows what he's doing when it comes to who he invites on the show, which I 100% respect. I'd love to have him on my show, though. In fact, I might, I may talk to him about something. We'll see. Stay tuned. I don't know that T.Z. Hartman that ever actually has happened or will happen. I think it just makes it easier to trick people. People love the bit with the dog. Yes. What's your favorite magic item? I don't know. I don't really have a favorite magic item. It changes. Anyway, so it's now 7:38. We've been streaming for a while. I feel like we. I think, yeah, he does. He does have me as a forgotten god. So I think that's about as much Matt Colville as Matt Mercer thinks is appropriate for his game, is a reference to me in his pantheon, and that's fine. That guy, that guy knows his game way better than I do, and his players. Lost and Found. It's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Shakespeare in Love. Love it, love it. Go watch Shakespeare. It makes a great double feature, Shakespeare in Love, with a movie called Topsy Turvy, which not a lot of people saw, but it's fantastic. I know that we're not supposed to like Gwyneth Paltrow for some reason, and a lot of people criticize her for various reasons, some of which I think are really unfair. But every time I watch Shakespeare in Love, I fall in love with her again. How's my cat doing? Oh, we don't know. We don't know. Right now, she's the most expensive cat I've ever had. North of $5,000 I've spent on that cat in a very short period of time. But again, I've got a career and a couple of other things. Forget the Kickstarter. I'm doing okay. And I just always remember my mom. My mom had a dog when she was a little girl named Cookie. And that dog got hit by a car. And her parents had 2 kids, and this was the 1950s, and they couldn't afford so the dog had to go across the Rainbow Bridge. And so my mom remembered. My understanding of this experience is my mom was old enough to understand why and what was going on, but it just destroyed her. So when I'd come around and I was a teenager and I had a pet and there was something wrong with the pet and had to go to the vet, and the vet was like, this is going to cost a lot of money to fix this pet, Mrs. Colville. But, so we understand like this was a free animal that you got that you're about to spend a lot of money on. So if you say no, we understand. And my mom wanted to talk to me, and she was like, what do you think? And I was like, well, it's your money, Mom. And she's like, maybe she just wanted to explain this to me. Maybe she just wanted someone to tell the story to, when more power to her. But she told me the story about the dog that she couldn't save. And now that she was an adult and had money, she could save this animal. And she did. And so that is always in my head whenever I'm taking my pets to the vet. I'm always thinking, now my mom's gone and has been for several years. I wish my mom could have seen this success that I've had just, personally and professionally. But that's the voice in my head when I have Muffin at the vet and they're like, we don't know what's wrong, Mr. Colville. And they give me a whole battery of stuff and I try it and almost none of it works. And so we try new stuff and we find out that she's got one thing, definitely got one thing, but lots of cats have that thing and it's usually not bad, but that thing can mutate into another thing. And when that happens, your cat's going to die. So let's keep testing and let's keep trying a new round of medications and cat losing a lot of weight. But it seems as though the weight loss has kind of leveled out. It hasn't gone this way, but it seems like it's leveled out. And, at the end of the day, I love this cat. But part of me, I've had to send several pets across the Rainbow Bridge in my life. And it doesn't really get easier. But I am more zen about it. And I'm more aware that, like, the thing that does get easier over time is the knowledge that this is like a cat that I adopted. And I didn't adopt this cat. This is a feral cat that lived outside. And I said, I'm going to make you a new dog. First, all I was going to do was get her spayed so that she wouldn't have kittens and then send her back out into the world. But then she became my cat. And that was, 10 or 11 years ago. And she never would have lived this long in the wild. Never would have lived this long in the wild. So whatever happens from here on out, if we have to make a terrible decision, it's going to be hard and I'm not going to like it. But I understand that I have a context for it, and the context is she has lived a long life and been happy and loved. And a lot of animals and a lot of people don't get that chance. So yeah, it's tough. It would be great to have the success of the Kickstarter and not have to worry about my possibly dying cat. But I think this is the way the world works. I think it's this is the thing that Hayden says in the book. He's quoting his dad when he says it. I'm quoting my grandfather. You got to take the good with the bad, man. So 100% Korg 2000 BC. Yeah, I definitely don't want to see my cat waste away. That's not going to happen. That has happened once. I had a cat that had, I had 2 cats that both got sick one of them had a hyperthyroid, and so was basically digesting his own brain, my cat brain. And so this is a great story. So the vet is like, well, you can either give your cat a pill every day for the rest of its life, and that'll work. It'll just, or we can inject your cat with radioactive iodine, which will collect in the thyroid, and it will basically kill a percentage of the thyroid that we tune based on how much iodine we put in there until the cat is better. And I was like, oh, will that work? And they're like, oh yeah, it works. It's just really expensive. Mom's like, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's do it. And so it took Brain to the place that invented this, which is in Southern California, and actually now quite near. It used to be far away, but now it's right down the street from where I work, which is still kind of far away. And so this is, a while ago. This is like 2008, I think, but it was still sophisticated enough that I take Brain to this vet and they inject him with the radioactive iodine and they put him in, he's there for like 10 days living there. And he's got his own box that he lives in. And he's got a little hidey hole in the box that he can go inside and sleep or he can come out and see the people walking by and get pettings. And they had a webcam in there and I got a URL. I could watch my cat Brain extrude from this hole, the hidey hole, and come out and see the people. And I was like, Brain. And then they let the cat come home. And they're like, the cat is still radioactive. So be careful. The cat needs to be in its own room for another week to 10 days, be alone. And what was the rule was the cats can go visit Brain and spend as much time. The other cats and your dog can go visit Brain, but you have to restrict the amount of time you spend with Brain to about an hour a day. And I was like, oh, why is that? Why do the cats get to go? You ready for this? This is the reason I'm telling the story. Why do the cats get to spend as much time as they want with Brain and not have to worry about getting cancer as a result of exposure to ionizing radiation? But I can't. And the doctor literally said, because your cats don't go to Disney World. And I was like, okay, this is going to be an interesting explanation. This dude he's got a chunk is what they call it in radio when you've got a bit you want to do. He's got a chunk on this and I'm going to let him go. I said, what does that mean? I said, playing my part. And he goes, well, you are a human being, and human beings do things like fly on high-altitude aircraft. Go to Disney World. Humans do things like fly on high-altitude aircraft, and we get dental x-rays, and we get medical x-rays, and all these things are exposing us to ionizing radiation. The risk of cancer due to exposure to ionizing radiation is cumulative over the course of your life. But this is, for your cat, this is the only exposure they're ever going to have, probably. And so it's fine. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Sure. And I remember I went to my friend John, who was a Boy Scout science teacher, basically, the person who manages all the science experiments and science field trips. And so he's got all of this crazy stuff. And I said, John, do you have a Geiger counter? And he's like, yes, I do. And I had to take the Geiger counter to Radio Shack because it needed special batteries. And they're like, what does this do? I'm like, it's a Geiger counter. And that guy's like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh, well. And I explained that it detects ionizing radiation. He's like, what's that? And I'm like, it's the kind of radiation you get from a nuclear bomb, as opposed to like microwave radiation and stuff like that. So for a little while, I had a radioactive cat, and you could see where the cat had been in the room because the Geiger counter would tell you like, oh, you need to vacuum this up. So that was super cool. Radio Shack. This truly is an old story. The old ones. And then I had another cat that had cancer, different than a hyperactive thyroid, and I was recommended spending a ridiculous amount of money giving that cat chemotherapy, and it didn't work. And the cat might not have had cancer. There might have been an infection. It's one of those things where they're like, we don't know what's wrong. We think it's cancer. It might not be. It might just be an infection. But the only way to find out is to cut the cat open, and the cat is sick, and cutting the cat open might kill the cat. So let's treat the radiation. And she did not respect that. The terrible thing that I hated about this was the place I took the cat to. The person there treating the cat would just acted like I was an idiot and would just constantly repeat the same things to me. And I'm like, the cat is not responding. The cat is not getting better. And she would just say all the same things that she had already said, as though I didn't matter and as though the cat didn't matter. And that cat died in my arms. And that was a deeply, deeply upsetting personal experience to me. The cat stayed alive long enough for me to wake up and find it trying to claw its way across collapsed on the floor, trying to get to me. And I picked that cat up, and that was the end for that cat. That cat checked out, and it destroyed me for days. I put it in the book, by the way. I'm not going to tell you where. My attitude is, what's the point of having these awful experiences if we do not put it in the work, whatever the work is? So yeah, that's something where that's not going to happen to Muffin. Okay, that's not going to happen to my pets after this. There's a point where if it seems obvious to everybody. I remember when my mom was dying. I didn't really know she was dying, by the way. I thought she was just really sick, but she was dying. Oh, welcome to the stream, folks. But this is life, and these are the lessons we learn. And what's the point of learning these lessons if we can't share them with people? My mom was dying, and there was a point where her doctor, who was a great doctor, really, really good, was like, there was a point where he's like, well, we can dialyze her some more, and she'll probably come out of what's wrong with her. And I was like, but what is the point of dialyzing her if this is just going to happen again? I don't understand. And he was waiting. I didn't understand this, but he was waiting. And I was working my way through, and I eventually said, shouldn't we just let her go? And he's like, that's up to you, Mr. Colville. And I was like, well, why haven't we talked about that yet? And the doctor said, because we've been waiting for you to ask about it. In other words, the doctor knew way before I did that my mom was dying. But the doctor swears an oath. This is important. Swears an oath. First, do no harm. And those guys take that shit seriously. Never met a doctor that doesn't take that super, super seriously. And so it was up to me to be the one to say, let's talk about what happens next. And once I broached that subject, the floodgates opened and things got a lot simpler. And my mom's suffering was resolved. Anyway. We are ice borer, but our pets live simpler lives than people do, ultimately. Our pets don't have existential... they're not self-aware. They don't have complex models of themselves in their brains. And they don't experience suffering the way humans do. They experience pain. But apart from that, they don't... I think we project onto them a lot more, and we would be, it's natural and it's healthy to have empathy and sympathy, but they don't have, cerebral cortexes. So they're not, it's our relationship with our pets is, although I do think of them as having little tiny souls. They're not as expansive and robust as humans, but they do have little tiny personalities and little tiny souls. They are important to us. So, yeah, Matt, you are an awesome dude. Well, I'm great. Great as in large or immense. We mean it in a pejorative sense. So anyway, I hope you guys... Let's upload just this part to YouTube and see what happens. I hope you guys enjoyed the Black Panther discussion and talking about where does power drive, because I do think that movie... Go back, and if you watch that movie, go back and watch it now thinking about it, and you're going to see all these story beats that are they're whole shots, reaction shots. There are reaction shots to Zuri. I gotta look him up again. The General Okoye, right, to Wakabi. There are whole reaction shots to them where they're not talking, they're just thinking. And each of them is thinking, if I make a decision right now, that guy isn't king anymore. So, I think that, what is the aim of this stream? No one knows the answer to that question. So, I think that we're done. It's 7:50 and we've been streaming for, I don't know, uptime. Is this the end? Is this the end of Matt Colville? Well, it's the end of the stream, at least. You want more Time Rider? I can provide you with some more Time Rider. We'll see. So, yeah, I think that's it. It's time to check out. I don't know when the next time we'll stream is. More videos this week. We'll stream probably next Saturday night. What the subject is, I don't know. We'll figure something out. But more streams coming up. We're going to talk more about the Kickstarter. I know people would like more running the game videos, and there's going to be more of those, but this Kickstarter, it runs for a month and then it's done. So I want to make sure that people are learning about what they're going to get in the Kickstarter and how it works. And then when there's more art to show off, we're going to show up that art. And apart from that, I think we are, I'm going to switch to the Time Rider. I'm going to fiddle around with this thing for a little while. And probably for those of you who weren't around in the beginning of the stream, probably just going to go through the same thing I did before and tweak some stuff and play around with it. So if you already watched it once, you're just going to see that same thing again. So until next time, folks, peace out.
If the data on my returning probe ship matches my computerized calculations, I will travel where no man has dared to go.
Into the black hole.
In, through, and beyond. In, through, beyond. In, through, and beyond. Beyond. In, through, and beyond. If the data on my returning probe ship matches my computerized calculations, I will travel where no man has dared to go.
Into the black hole?
In, through, and beyond.